It's a fairly rare use case, but what's an efficient way to get a team of 4 up a technical multi-pitch route? Hi there, I'm Jason. Is there an efficient way to get a team of 4 up a technical climb? I get this question a lot, but probably far more than is representative of the general climbing population, because I have 2 kids who are of climbing age, but are not large enough to be lead belaying adults. That's the use case, a family of 4 moving 2 kids and 2 adults up a climb. I guess there's another use case for climbers who reach a section that only one person is capable of leading, but you'd need to be expecting it in order to have another rope, as you'll see. In both use cases, regardless, what we aren't doing is splitting into 2 teams of 2, which would be the standard setup. In the latter case, since only one person is capable of the lead, that isn't possible. In the former case, we are assuming that only 2 people, the adults, are capable of the lead, but one adult must belay the other because the kids are too light to lead belay the adults. Although my kids are now leading multi-pitch routes, so this is a transient point in time for most climbing families. There is also the fixed point lead belay option, which I use with my kids fairly frequently to have my kids belay me, but it requires certainty of anchor, belay system, and belayer. In my experience, if we are trying to get 4 climbers up on a single team, efficiency has to do with 2 major components: having as many climbers moving upwards at the same time as possible, and managing the belay stance through climber positioning, anchor sharing, and rope management. First, let's organize our team so that we can maximize concurrent upward movement. We are going to have one leader trailing 2 ropes. On those 2 ropes will be a person who we will call the second climber, who will be belaying the leader, and a third climber, who is trailing a third rope. To start the first pitch, everything is pretty standard, with the leader heading up and with the second belaying. At the top, the leader brings up the 2 climbers on the 2 ropes, and they are moving somewhat concurrently. So we've had 2 time sequences of climbing in order to bring up 3 climbers. Starting the second pitch is where the system starts to pay a benefit. Now, the second climber begins belaying the leader up the second pitch. At the same time, the third climber can belay the remaining 4th climber up the first pitch. In this way, we aren't adding a third time period of climbing where the leader is just waiting around. Of course, this demands that the third climber can be trusted with belaying off the anchor from the top. And all this activity going on demands that we manage our belay stance really well because space is at a premium, and that starts when the leader first arrives at the top of the first pitch. Ideally, we want to get the leader positioned at the side of the stance he or she will depart from as they climb the next pitch. Then we can build so that the rest of the stances will move progressively away from the leader's departure point. Now we need to consider the anchor. Once the leader makes the top of the second pitch and is bringing up the second and third climbers, the 4th climber will still be here at the top of the first pitch. That means the 4th climber will still need an anchor they are attached to. So what will be the 4th climber's anchor needs to be built first with everything else built on top of it. That way we can take apart all the other systems and still leave this 4th person's anchor in place. Making an anchor that allows for some self-equalization as we make changes in direction of pull is a good practice, since the team will fan out horizontally at the stance, which will require vectors that can vary greatly from the direction of pull when climbing. So in this case, we are adding in 2 quad anchors. And you can watch a short we did on how to build that anchor by following a link in the description. The bottom anchor is left open for the 4th climber, and the top anchor becomes where the leader attaches and where the belay is built. Once we are bringing up the second and third climbers, we want to use the rope management techniques we described in a previous video. There's another link in the description. The short version is that we bring up the ropes until the second and third climbers are under tension. Add the ropes into the belay device and then tie a knot behind the device to demark the clean section of rope, the section that had both strands brought up matched in length. This is different from the dirty stack where the ropes get unmatched in length as the second and third climbers ascend at different rates. Once we are ready for the next pitch, we separate out the clean stack and then flip it so the leader's end is on top. That section of rope will feed out pretty evenly as the leader climbs. The dirty stack will have to be managed, which takes us to the second and third climbers. Each of these climbers should extend progressively farther away from the anchor, and so probably will want to clove in with the rope, which we can easily extend. While the second is belaying the leader up the next pitch, the third climber is belaying up the fourth climber using the bottom anchor to reduce clutter. The third climber needs to try to keep the fourth rope separate from all the other rope using a free section of ground or a lap coil if necessary. The second and third climbers can also work in conjunction to help untangle any rope in the dirty stack as it feeds out to the leader. When the fourth arrives, they must go into the bottom anchor and likely will need to extend their connection point farthest away. As the other climbers eventually move up and clear the stance, the fourth climber can shorten their clove hitch and get tighter to the anchor. So, by having the leader climb as the fourth is climbing the pitch below, we gain efficiency of movement, and by managing the belay stances carefully, we gain efficiency in transitions. Do you do any technical climbing in teams bigger than 2? Tell us why or why not in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you want to support us. For more information, you can go to our website at www.shortguysbetaworks.com. You can watch the video I mentioned about rope management in a team of 3, or you can check out our entire rock climbing safety series. We'll see you next week and keep on getting more out of that big outside.